Have you ever met someone who insists they know exactly what's in your heart? Someone so certain about your motives and so dismissive of anything you say that you begin to doubt your own feelings. That's one of those moments when a subtle psychological alarm should go off inside you. Because there's a danger in human relationships that rarely shows itself with shouting, obvious toxicity. It's quieter, more insidious. Something Carl Jung observed. Many of the worst relational disasters begin not with rage, but with conviction. A conviction about others that is rooted in one's own inner denial. It's about shadow projection, projecting your own disowned parts onto someone else, and then treating that person as though they embody everything you refuse to acknowledge in yourself. And here's the kicker. That projection can become so confident, so immovable, it warps reality. First for the projector, then for everyone around them. In this video, we'll explore the most dangerous sign Jung noticed in people. When someone projects their shadow with absolute conviction, but also several other related signs: ego inflation, persona collapse, archetypal possession, compulsion to repeat. When they combine, we'll break down exactly what to watch for, how to recognize the pattern early, and what to do to protect yourself. Bring in a little self-awareness, and you can stop this from becoming destructive. There's nothing alarmist here, but there is urgency. Because by the time many people realize what's going on, the damage has already spread to relationships, to reputations, even to one's own sense of self. Stay alert. Let's dive in. To understand what Jung pointed to, we need a clear idea of shadow projection. It's not just blaming others, it's deeper. Right. The shadow in Jungian psychology refers to the parts of ourselves we don't like or we deny, weaknesses, impulses, fears, things we label bad, or that society or we ourselves suppressed. Now projection means taking those disowned traits and unconsciously seeing them in someone else. Perhaps you're angry inside, but instead you see anger in another. Or you feel insecure, but you accuse others of smugness or superiority. Now, most of us do this sometimes, but the danger arises when projection becomes conviction. When someone isn't just misattributing, they fully believe their perception is reality. For example, imagine someone always accusing others of manipulation, while themselves manipulating others, but never admitting it. They perceive manipulation everywhere, because that part of themselves is repressed. Jung warned that when projection gains momentum, it distorts both inner and outer reality. The projector starts filtering everything through their projection, and others may start to believe the projector's version too. Modern psychological and neuroscientific studies support that belief. loops distort perception. Our brains favor data that confirms what we believe, rejecting what doesn't. The projector builds a version of facts that bolster their denial. So this is more than personality conflict. It's a red flag. When your experience of how someone describes you is consistently at odds with your internal sense, that mismatch is what we'll watch for. Shadow projection is only one of Jung's warnings. Closely related are persona identification, ego inflation, and archetypal possession. They often intersect. Let's define persona first. Your persona is the mask you wear in public. The persona roles: friend, parent, expert. Everyone has one. It helps us function socially. But danger arises if someone becomes the persona, letting no other part of themselves remain visible. Persona collapse means losing connection with being oneself. All authenticity is sacrificed to maintaining external appearance. Any threat to that image, no matter how small, triggers strong defensiveness. Ego inflation is when the conscious self, ego, identifies with larger archetypal or collective values beyond its capacity. When one sees oneself as more than human limits warrant, morally, spiritually, intellectually elevated in a rigid way, archetypal possession is similar. It's when someone stops operating from their individual self and starts being used as a channel for a powerful archetype. Think: savior, righteous judge, dissenting martyr, so that their personality is overshadowed by the mythic energy. Jung cautioned that such states can be seductive. They may feel noble or elevated, but beneath that, trouble brews, blind spots, lack of self-reflection, denial of the shadow, projection onto others. Modern psychology confirms that inflated egos, overly sensitive to criticism, defensive, and often motivated by deep insecurity and what they hide inside. Also, persona identification ties into collective pressures, what society expects, what roles are rewarded. But if the persona becomes the only identity, the inner self fragments. Let's talk about concrete signs. When several of these appear together, red flags should go up. 1. Absolute certainty about others' motivations. Not, "I wonder if," but "you are selfish. You always," without space for doubt. 2. Immunity to contradictory evidence. You show evidence, explanation, but they treat it as part of the attack. 3. Emotional intensity disproportionate to the matter. Minor comment, huge response. Small issue, extreme outrage or distress. 4th, consistent victim narrative. They always see themselves as victim, no matter the context, perhaps changing who the aggressors are, but the story stays the same. 5. Recruitment behavior. They try to get others involved to validate their view of you through gossip, persuasion, or sharing concerns that paint you in a negative light. If you see 1 or 2, maybe misunderstanding or conflict. But if 3, 4, 5 together, especially in combination with ego inflation or inflated persona, you might be witnessing something dangerous. Jung's clinical work had cases where people with these patterns destroyed careers, relationships, mental health of those around them, often without ever acknowledging wrongdoing, because from their point of view, they were innocent. Shadow projection and these companion dangers don't stay small. They escalate in stages. Recognizing early stages gives you opportunity to protect yourself. Here are the stages. Stage 1. Initial projection. Minor attributions, assumptions, maybe occasional misblames. Stage 2. Conviction crystallizes. The person becomes more certain, less open to any challenge. Stage 3. Reality distortion. They interpret neutral actions as confirming their beliefs. E.g., you saying hello is seen as aggression, or omission as betrayal. Stage 4. Social recruitment. Bringing others into their narrative, perhaps under the guise of concern or for clarity, but really to have support for their vision. Stage 5. Collective possession. The narrative becomes shared. Others begin to see you through their lens. Stage 6. Systematic exclusion. Gradual isolation, social marginalization, possibly mobbing or coordinated rejection. By the time you're at stage 4 or 5, the damage can be broad. Reputational harm, emotional abuse, or worse. Sometimes projects involve community, family, work environment. The dynamics of groups can amplify the projection. People feel pressure to conform, fear pushing back. Jung had a patient early in his career who seemed intelligent, likable, even altruistic. But Jung noticed patterns. The patient described every person he considered evil or bad in nearly identical terms, terms that matched the patient's own repressed traits. He was projecting his own shadow. Over time, this projection turned destructive. Relationships ended, colleagues lost jobs, even his brother was harmed psychologically. Yet the patient saw himself as victim throughout. What's vital in this example is that he wasn't outwardly aggressive at first. He was harming. It was the certainty and the continual projection that made the pattern toxic. The lesson: it's not always loud, not always obvious. Sometimes those most dangerous hide behind calm or charm, until the projection has already spread. Now, why do these projections become so sticky? Why is it so hard to respond or protect ourselves? First, because the projector believes their own narrative. When someone is convinced, evidence feels like part of an attack rather than correction. Trying to argue can backfire. Next, there's emotional contagion. If someone is emotionally intense, your own emotions get triggered. You may start doubting yourself, wondering if maybe you did something wrong, or seeing things as they say. Also, group dynamics. Others may observe parts of what you see, or only hear the projector's side. They may align with the one who speaks with conviction. Social pressure builds around the projector's version. Another difficulty is internal: self-doubt, guilt, the desire to be understood. When someone insists on a version of you that doesn't feel true, your internal dissonance makes you vulnerable to persuasion or self-blame. And finally, because many of these mechanisms are unconscious, both for projector and for the people around. Projection isn't always conscious manipulation. Often, it's defense of the unconscious. That makes it slippery. Recognizing all this, what can you do? How protect yourself without escalating conflict or harming yourself? Here are steps drawn from Jungian insight, plus modern psychological best practices. 1. Trust your internal reality. If someone's description of you consistently doesn't match what you experience, hold on to what you know about yourself. 2. Don't try to convince them. They're usually not in a mindset where evidence matters. Arguments tend to reinforce their conviction. 3. Set boundaries. Limit what you share. Avoid giving material that can be twisted. Protect emotional and psychic space. 4. Document interactions. Keep written records when possible. Even just notes. They help you preserve reality when things are distorted. 5. Seek outside perspectives. Friends, counselors, people who know you. Their view helps anchor your perception. 6. Withdraw when necessary. Sometimes strategic distancing is the safest move. Also, internal work helps. Knowing your own shadow, admitting your own imperfections, can make you less vulnerable to projection. Because you won't absorb everything someone projects onto you, nor will you have those disowned traits feeding into their narrative. A useful, but often uncomfortable question. Are you sometimes the projector? We may all do this in smaller degrees. Jung would say part of individuation, becoming whole, is recognizing our own shadow, persona, unintegrated parts. Some signs for self-check. Do you find yourself harshly judging people for traits you secretly dislike in yourself? Is criticism unbearable? Do you see it always as wrong rather than informative? Do you cling to a certain image of yourself, trying to look good, be right, be admired? Do you often feel like victim, even in small conflicts? Is there a pattern? Have you noticed repeating life dramas, different partners, co-workers, environments, but with very similar painful dynamics? If yes, that doesn't mean you're proud or irredeemable. It means there are portions of your inner world that need attention. Jung's path would suggest bringing them into consciousness through reflection, therapy, journaling, shadow work, integrating criticism, humility. So why go through all this? Because when we understand this, we gain something precious. Freedom. Freedom from being manipulated by someone else's unconscious. Freedom from getting drawn into dramas not ours. Freedom to preserve our sanity, our relationships, and our sense of self. Also, freedom to grow. When you see your own shadow in moderate doses, you become more authentic, more compassionate, both towards yourself and others. It also means you can be in relationships more safely, with people who are more aware, more grounded. And when you have to disengage from someone dangerous, you can do it without losing yourself. In a way, the most dangerous psychological sign isn't just others' projection. It's the unconsciousness of our own shadow, paired with certainty in perception. Theirs or ours. Because if both parties are unconscious, truth cannot breathe. Reality becomes hostage. Here's the core. The greatest danger in human relationships isn't the loud, obvious abuser. It's the person who believes completely in a version of you that isn't true, and who doesn't see how that image is shaped by what they refuse to see in themselves. When someone you care about or interact with shows several of the warning signs: absolute certainty, emotional overreaction, victim narrative, recruitment of others, persona collapse, don't wait. The damage compounds. But also, look within. Shadow work isn't easy. Humility isn't glamorous. Yet the more aware you are of your own projections, the less likely you are to become either the victim or the unknowing projector. Your life, your integrity, is grounded in conscious awareness, knowing what belongs to you and what belongs to others. That's your shield. So stay alert, yes, but also stay compassionate with yourself and with others. People usually act from what they can't bear to know about themselves. And one more thing. Consciousness doesn't mean perfection. It means noticing. It means choosing. It means not allowing unconscious forces, yours or others, to run the show. If you take just one thing from this video, guard your inner reality. Recognize what you know to be true. Stay faithful to that. Trust yourself. Because when you do, you step out of others' projections. You stop being pulled into destructive dramas, and you reclaim your power to be fully, truly yourself. And finally, thank you for listening to me. See you in the next dimension.